What do you make of all this?
Man, I don't even have an opinion.
Well, you gotta have an opinion. I mean, do you think that God came down from heaven and stopped?
Today, I'm going to show you Quentin Tarantino's entire filmography, ranked from worst to best. This director is undoubtedly a favorite for many, and I can say he's in my top 3. His unique style, with long, everyday dialogues, his magnificently written characters, and the ultra-violence have captivated millions of people. So get comfortable, because today on CinePrime,
this car is 100% death-proof. Only to get the benefit of it, honey, you really need to be sitting in my seat.
don't get confused, the worst Quentin Tarantino movie is still a great film. It's just the least good of all, as well as the most different. We're talking about a pretty strange horror thriller starring Kurt Russell, who I can say, without fear of contradiction, is the biggest bastard in Tarantino's filmography. Basically, the movie is about a serial killer who kills with his car. It might sound like a silly plot, but Tarantino makes it absolutely hilarious, with incredible scenes like Kurt Russell's first murder and the final chase. Although it's not entirely its goal, the movie does give you some creepy moments. The killer is so cold and depraved that just imagining encountering someone like him on the road is terrifying. No doubt we're not looking at a masterpiece, and it doesn't aim to be one. It aims to be a fun movie, paying homage to the grindhouse genre. If you're a Tarantino fan, you'll love it.
Keep your mouth shut.
Well,
I mean, don't say one fucking word, okay?
okay, Lewis.
Once again, one of Tarantino's least Tarantino movies, but it's still a fantastic film. The scene with Robert De Niro in the parking lot is cinematic history, and undoubtedly one of the best scenes in Tarantino's filmography. What makes this movie worse than the others is that its script isn't as sharp as in the others. The characters aren't as well developed except for Pam Grier's, and, well, it's not as violent. Still, it's a remarkable movie with great performances and unforgettable scenes. Tarantino never disappoints. It's an amazing film with good pacing, a solid plot, and fantastic dialogues. Samuel L. Jackson's character, although not one of the best he's done with Tarantino, is still pretty good. And Robert De Niro's character is the shit. A very good film, but not as great compared to the rest of Tarantino's filmography. From this point on, all the movies mentioned are absolute masterpieces. The Hateful Eight is probably the most underrated Tarantino film, and I know I'm putting it in a low position, but that's because the rest are also masterpieces. This movie is often criticized for being slow, but not at all. If you enjoy Tarantino's dialogues, characters, and violence, this movie is for you. With the legendary Ennio Morricone's music, the film takes us to a cabin lost in the snow as its only setting and 8 characters. The movie is about the relationships between them as they try to survive in the cabin. But of course, since it's Tarantino, everything goes to hell, and it becomes absolute madness. Many criticize it for being too similar to Reservoir Dogs, and while it does share some similarities, it creates its own essence, and it's a masterpiece.
Right there! Get in the fucking car!
Tarantino's first film is an absolute masterpiece. In Reservoir Dogs, the director already uses his classic non-linear narrative, where we gradually uncover the events. First, we see a character bleeding out in a car, with no idea how they ended up there. And as the film progresses, we start piecing together the puzzle. I was lucky enough to see the film in theaters during a re-release, and what a marvel it was. All the scenes are amazing, the script is practically perfect, with mind-blowing plot twists and a spectacular storyline. The torture scene while stuck in the middle with Uplays is absolutely incredible, and one of the most iconic in cinema. This film marked the essence of Tarantino, which would be fully mastered in Pulp Fiction, but we'll talk about that later.
Last chance, fancy pants.
Oh, very well.
Django.
When Tarantino decided to make a Western, and what a Western it turned out to be. It's well known that Tarantino's favorite director is Sergio Leone, and his favorite movie of all time is The Good, The Bad, and The Ugly. However, the director had never made a Western before, despite already having several masterpieces under his belt. Then he went on to create one of the best Westerns of all time. This might be a controversial statement since the film is fairly recent, but it's truly a marvel. The character development of Django, the incredible villain played by Leonardo DiCaprio, including the improvised scene where he cuts his hand on glass.
Hey! Lay your palm flat on that tabletop!
Everything in this film works wonderfully. The script, as always, is brilliant. The stylized violence in what is arguably one of his most violent movies, the dark humor, the dialogues, the soundtrack, everything is phenomenal. It's also perhaps his most entertaining film, and the ending is one of the most extreme and crazy in his entire filmography. If you haven't seen it yet, what are you waiting for? The greatest action movie in history. I'm counting Kill Bill 1 and 2 as a single film, because originally it was meant to be just one. However, to avoid a 4-hour runtime, they decided to split it into 2 parts. Kill Bill delivers and elevates everything one could want in an action film. A simple yet effective plot, unparalleled action sequences with perfectly framed shots that clearly showcase the action, and a dose of ultra-violence that only Tarantino knows how to make so immensely satisfying. On top of that, the movie boasts a majestically implemented soundtrack, creating entirely different feelings and sensations within the same scene just by changing the music. Kill Bill is pure cinema, packed with an incredible array of cinematic elements. Flashbacks, slow motion, black and white and color sequences, animation, long takes, and more. All of these are masterfully edited to blend perfectly and craft a flawless action film. The conclusion to the story is perfect, leaving us with the feeling of having witnessed an absolute masterpiece. Few scenes are as satisfying as the final credits, where we finally see Uma Thurman happy with her daughter.
Ladies.
Tarantino's love letter to the cinema of the 60s and 70s, an absolute masterpiece that transcends being just a film. It's the ultimate homage to cinema and a lost era. Tarantino masterfully captures the essence of the late 1960s, a time when Hollywood was undergoing a monumental transformation. And he does so with a precision and love for detail that only he could achieve. What makes Once Upon a Time in Hollywood a masterpiece is its unique narrative structure. Instead of following a conventional pace, Tarantino crafts an intimate and expansive portrait of his characters. Rick Dalton, a fading actor, and Cliff Booth, his loyal stunt double and friend, portrayed masterfully by Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt. Their stories unfold with a slow but hypnotic rhythm that allows us to delve deep into the complexities of their lives, while the historical backdrop adds layers of tension and intrigue. And then there's the climax, the wildest ending Tarantino has ever delivered. The impact is even greater because it comes after a movie that feels more grounded, more realistic, making the finale utterly spectacular. For me, it's the best ending in his entire filmography.
And what would that be?
Steak bits.
Say auf Wiedersehen to your Nazi boss.
This film is, without a doubt, an all-time great. It features the best opening in cinema history, led by Hans Landa, who is, in turn, the greatest villain ever portrayed on screen. This movie unfolds almost like a series of short films. The opening scene, the dinner scene, the card game scene. All of these are miniature masterpieces that come together to form a magnum opus. It's a film packed with tension, violence, sublime performances, and a flawless script. For many, this is Tarantino's best work, and perhaps in a few years, it will solidify its place as his definitive masterpiece. Few movies reach this level of brilliance. As always, Tarantino does whatever he pleases with history. In this case, he takes on Nazism, delivering a well-deserved dose of vengeance to the Nazis and the Austrian painter. The film grips you from the very first scene. Hans Landa's character completely dominates the movie. He's one of the most commanding presences I've ever seen. With every line and every moment, he's brimming with terror.
Ah, Landa, da sind Sie ja.
Emmanuel, voici le colonel SS Landa. Il sera chargé de la sécurité.
This could very well be Tarantino's greatest film. But before Inglorious Bastards, he made one that was even better.
Everybody be cool, this is a robbery!
Any of you fucking pricks move! And I'll execute every motherfucking last one of you!
Pulp Fiction isn't just Tarantino's best film. It's one of the greatest movies in the history of cinema. If Inglorious Bastards has the best opening scene, then this movie undoubtedly has the best opening credits. Pulp Fiction tells its story in an absolutely magnificent way, throwing you directly into its world without any preliminary context. Instead of spoon-feeding you background, the film immerses you in situations where the context is gradually unveiled as the story progresses. This creates a constant sense of intrigue and climax, making every single scene both indispensable and brilliant. Every scene in the movie could easily be someone's favorite because they're all iconic and fantastic. The characters are developed impeccably through seemingly mundane, everyday conversations. This approach not only immerses the audience, but also humanizes the characters, making them feel authentic and relatable. Without providing traditional backstories, the film manages to immerse us in a perfectly constructed puzzle, where from the very start, you're locked into an unrelenting state of climax. Everything about Pulp Fiction is legendary. Every scene, every line, every shot. The sheer randomness of events that leads to unimaginable consequences is a masterstroke. For all these reasons, I can confidently say that Pulp Fiction is Tarantino's greatest film.
I mean, do you think that God came down from heaven and stopped?
Oh, what the fuck's happening? Oh, man. Shit, man.
Oh man, I shot Marvin in the face.
This video took a lot of effort to make, so please show your support by subscribing, giving it a like, and letting me know what you thought about it in the comments. Thanks so much.